Asia. It's the world's biggest continent, home to more than 5 billion people and responsible for more than 1/3 of the planet's GDP. Despite all this, the West is still largely seen as the dominant player on the world stage. But for how much longer? Well, one author and academic is making the case for how the 21st century will be reshaped by the rise of Asia. Well, that man is Parag Khanna. He's the author of The Future is Asian, this book, and he joins us now from London. He's also a global strategist and senior research fellow at the Center on Asia and Globalization at the National University of Singapore. Parag, good to have you on the program. And thanks for sending me a copy of the book. I really appreciate it. Tell me why The Future is Asian is not another one of those, hey, China's going to take over the world, everybody gets scared, the Chinese are on the verge of swallowing up the United States and everybody else.
Because this is the first book about Asia that doesn't say all those things. And the reason I wrote it is because for the past 15, 20 years, just about every book about Asia has been actually a book about China, not really about Asia as a whole. But as I point out, there are, of the, as you said, 5 billion people who live in the Asian mega region, only 1.4 billion of them are Chinese, and the rest are so often ignored. And yet the history of Asia is the history of many great civilizations, whether it's Indian, Persian, Southeast Asian, as well as Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and so forth, that we have to really understand just how diverse the region is. It is much more than just China. And of course, today, this should, I hope, be more and more obvious to people as they see that China's growth is slowing, while India's growth is accelerating. The Southeast Asian region receives more foreign investment already today than China does. So in many ways, we're experiencing peak China, and we should really be looking at the rest of Asia as much or more than we look at China. And that has been such a massive market failure intellectually and in the literature and analysis of Asia that I'm trying to correct.
Is it about politics or economics?
It's absolutely about both. For example, when we talk about trade and economic affairs in Asia, we treat countries as if they're rival blocs because we superimpose the historical rivalries that Asians have had with each other, such as China and Japan, for example. But the way I explain it, the story of Asia's collective economic rise in the past 3 generations begins with Japan, of course, not with China. It was Japan's economic miracle in the post-war decades that made it the world's second largest economy. It was Japan's story that inspired the Asian tiger economies of South Korea, of Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong. And then all of those predecessors were the largest investors in China. The reason China is China today, the economic superpower that it is because of Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Hong Kong investing in China. And that is not the end of history either, because now China, with the Belt and Road Initiative, together with Japan and other wealthy and prosperous Asian countries, is investing in the next wave of Asian growth in South Asia and Southeast Asia, which again have 2.5 billion people. And those economies are already, to a large degree, growing faster than China. So again, Asia is a much bigger story than just China.
I need to wrap, but I'm going to ask for a little bit extra time because I also want to ask you about Turkey. And, you know, a lot of people see Turkey as the furthest east of the West and the furthest west of the East. And perhaps, you know, look at it politically, especially now under President Erdogan. You have a relationship with the United States that is up and down, a relationship with the European Union that is up and down. Now, previously, perhaps Turkey didn't have as many options, but nowadays we're seeing the country and the leadership say, okay, America, you don't want to do business with us, that's fine. We'll turn to the Chinese, we'll turn to the Russians, we'll do business with the Iranians. Okay, European Union, you don't want to let us into your club? Fine, we'll go our own way. Is that a part of this Asian future?
Absolutely. You've said it extremely well, and I think you've emphasized the attitude very well also. We tend to view, people in the West tend to view Turkey or Iran or Russia or Saudi Arabia as countries whose only meaningful geopolitical or diplomatic orientation is their relationship with the West. But today, Asians trade more with each other than they do with the rest of the world. So in this book, I have chapters about the Asianization of Russia, the rediscovery of Asia by Turkey as it no longer aspires to be a member of the European Union, and it's growing and deepening ties with all the Asian countries that you mentioned. The same for Saudi Arabia and others. So to my mind, Asia does not only geographically stretch all the way to the Anatolian Peninsula and the Mediterranean Sea, but economically, diplomatically, and strategically as well. The western part of Asia is very much realizing that through the new Silk Roads that are being built today, its future also lies very much with Asia.
Just very finally, a country like Pakistan, are you optimistic about Belt and Road or CPEC? It's linked to China. I know you're saying this is not only about China, but it's linked to China. There are those who believe that this will bring tremendous prosperity, and there are those that are saying, well, this is just like what came before. It's only going to line the pockets of the elites and not going to help the ordinary person. Where do you stand on a project like that in a country like Pakistan?
I do spend a lot of time in the book talking about Pakistan and the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It's a country that I spend a lot of time in and have studied this issue very closely. There's no question that CPEC brings benefits to Pakistan by building new infrastructure, creating a lot of local jobs, helping the economy diversify, attracting more foreign investment. This is Pakistan's, I don't want to say last chance, but they are taking the opportunity very seriously to benefit from all of this infrastructure investment and the lines of credit and so forth that Western entities no longer want to give to Pakistan. So I do believe it's going to be beneficial to Pakistan, but let's remember that does not mean that it is going to be a Chinese hegemonic project, because over time what happens is that when countries, if they use the resources and investment wisely that they receive from China, they grow, they gain in confidence, and then they attract other investors and they can dilute China's very strong influence in their economy, which is exactly what a number of countries are in fact choosing to do. So I do think that this will be good for Pakistan, and it is helping the country get very serious about its macroeconomic governance.
Okay, well, Parag Khanna, author of The Future is Asian. You're the second member of your household to be on the show this month. So you guys are so successful. It's annoying. It's annoying. But I thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsmakers, Parag Khanna.